So for context, we're a B2B focused venture capital firm. We invest in ANZ tech ventures and help them scale to the UK and US. We're a syndication model. We have a network of 230, 240 investors. And a big part of our thesis is adding value beyond the capital. So beyond just the investment, we spend a lot of time with the portfolio companies, helping them with their structure, their culture, all the skills needed to scale into market. In addition to those elements, we also run offsites and these trade missions. In terms of our team, so you've met four of us on this call. We also have venture partners. So three of our venture partners are listed here, but we have others as well. But guys like Adrian DeMarco, founder of Technology One, now a $5 billion valuation on the stock exchange, but a real focus on enterprise SaaS in particular. Michael Dempsey, who founded and exited EasyDebit, a fintech company, and Vicky Forrest, who's the Queensland Trade Commissioner based out of Silicon Valley, as well as some other founders in Silicon Valley and in the UK. Beyond that, we also draw upon our investor network. So those investors in our syndicate are quite active. We connect them into portfolio companies when they can add value as well. Oops. In terms of this mission program and how we operate, so we have a London mission in June. We time it with London Tech Week. We go to the US in October, which is a two-city mission. The reason we do that is we like to compare, contrast Silicon Valley with somewhere like Denver. And then outside of that, we run these founder offsite retreats, which again are B2B focused, 3 days away, to really talk about how do you build a scalable sales engine? How do you make sure that you can scale yourself and keep up with the growth of your business? And how do you become very good at navigating the change loops that inevitably can cause a company to fail? And then outside of that, in addition to the missions themselves, we run 3 workshops pre-mission to help you get prepared for when you're in the market. And then we also run workshops post-mission. So these are to help you make sure that you get outcomes when you come back. The missions are really, centered around founders. So particularly for us B2B tech founders, that's kind of the domain expertise that we bring. The mission is very much flavored around B2B. Outside of that, we also open it up to investors. So if you are an investor in B2B tech, or also one thing to think about as a founder is whether you actually bring some of your key investors along on the mission, because sometimes these missions can create a bit of tension when you come back, in terms of you've just stepped into this time machine, like seeing into the future, and sometimes you come back with a new strategy, and trying to convey that to those that haven't been can be challenging. So we do advocate, if you have key investors, maybe considering bringing them along. And then it's also open to ecosystem supporters. So this could be people running accelerators and others, but we tend to really have mostly founders. We typically take a cohort of 20 to 30. We're anticipating for the UK mission, we'll have 30 to 35 this year. In terms of who should participate, to give you some context, London last year, we had everything from a 20 mil ARR, 12 mil ARR, 11, 10, 8, down to 3 that were pre-revenue. There's really a couple of reasons why that dynamic plays out. But if you're in a situation where you're looking to be in the UK or US within the next 2 to 3 years, you're pretty much in the right place. So you might already have some customers in market. You might already be doing some sales from the mothership here in Australia. That's perfectly suited. Where we can add the most value is really helping you understand, is this the market for me? If it is, at what point in time, what do I need to look like to be ready to get there? And then most importantly, it's the how. How do I actually go about entering that market? Which leads into why participate. So, we often get asked, am I too early to be considering a trade mission? Am I too late? My view, and yes, it's probably biased, but you can never be too early or too late, in the sense of, if you go early, it's a great insight into how to be building now with the roadmap to that market in the future, and making sure you get the right things in place structurally to set you up to enter that market. But also you might be very well established, and really what these missions really, one of the benefits that's hard to measure is what it actually saves you in costly mistakes. So, one of our portfolio companies, a New Zealand-based company, spent a lot of money and a lot of time entering the UK market and made a lot of mistakes on that journey. And ultimately, that's part of what these missions bring, is learning what not to do. A big part of the week, we put you in front of ANZ founders who are over there, been there, done it, sharing their experiences, what they got wrong, so that you can avoid those mistakes. The other element of this is putting you in front of potential customers, so you can start having those conversations, understanding the nuances of doing business, particularly in the UK and US, where they speak the same language. We can make the mistake of thinking it's a nice, easy transition with not much local user localization, for example. But the nuances of doing business, even in the UK, is very distinct. And so learning some of those cultural aspects, learning what you need to look like in order to do business there, how to structure your entity both back here in Australia and in market. So we'll put you in front of investors, we'll put you in front of customers, we'll put you in front of founders, we'll put you in front of the different support programs that are available to help you enter market as well. And probably the last thing here, which many of you would already know, is one of the biggest values is actually a cohort. So the fact that you're spending a week together with 30 other founders that are on the same journey as you, and that's really the legacy artifact that you keep post mission. So that's the piece where you give each other a call at 3 a.m. when things have gone to shit, or you've hit some roadblock and you want their advice on how they handled XYZ, or someone goes back into market and they share connections and all that sort of thing. So a lot of the value is the cohort itself. Just in terms of the program, so each of the UK and US are fairly similar in that they're a 7-day format. The UK mission, we time with London Tech Week. We actually only attend about 1 or 2 events of the London Tech Week schedule. We don't go there specifically to attend London Tech Week, although you do get a delegate pass to London Tech Week. But these missions aren't designed to be just a conference junkies, sitting in sessions that you could YouTube answers to. This is really, we go for during London Tech Week because that's when most people are in market. The ecosystem there has their doors open. It's easy to get meetings. And there's a heap of other delegations from Australia, New Zealand, and internationally that are in market too. So it's a good time to be connected more broadly. Across the 7 days, we'll have about 35 events in the schedule. This will range from everything from dinners and social networking events through to half-day workshops, a full-day workshop with the UK government, panels, deep dives, and also a lot of time with the tribe investment team. So we run a couple of workshops during the week. We also do some deep dives with each of you. And I think one thing that's quite valuable that probably isn't talked about enough is the kind of the end of day wrap as well. So feedback from the last mission was participants really wanted more time end of day to decompress and actually take the learnings from the day and put them into something tangible that they can take forward. In addition to all that, the missions include accommodation, so we all co-locate together. Again, there's a lot of value in that in terms of getting back at the end of the day and just reflecting on content and sessions. Sorry, I'm just adding a few more people to the room that are coming in late. In the UK mission, we also include a travel part, like an Oyster travel card, so you can get around the city but quite easily. We have a couple of official mission dinners where we bring in a heap of guests. And it's pretty jam-packed, but the schedule itself, Murrin does the work on. Most of the schedule actually comes together post-selection of the cohort. So even though we have this framework, it becomes 4-dimensional Tetris. Murrin does a lot of work shifting things. Last year, we cancelled events last minute that we realized with the breakup of the cohort, they weren't going to be valuable. So we changed things on the fly. We try and make it bespoke to the delegation. But at the same time, to that question before, we do a lot of work pre-mission through workshops and also asking you to fill out different forms where we help you identify who you'd like to speak to in the UK and who you'd like to get access to. And then we plug you into those networks. One caveat on all of that is we can't do it for you. So this is not a trade mission where we become your concierge and do everything for you. We don't become a team member as such. But what we do is help you get the doors open. And so we'll give you the access to the networks. We'll leverage our networks to make sure you're getting where you need to go, but then you actually have to walk through those doors, arrange the meetings, as in the private meetings. With the, this is kind of what it looks like, just random photos of people doing awesome things. This was our delegation last year to the UK. So we had 30 on the mission last year. US mission is very similar. The only difference being we split the week up. So we land in San Francisco. We spend a bit of time in the city and down in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley. And then midweek, we fly into Denver. We also go for a day up to Boulder. And the reason for that is, for those of you familiar with the US, it is almost like 50 countries, depending what space and vertical you're working in. And so having a feel of, here's Silicon Valley, but here's another location you might want to consider. But otherwise, the rough format of the mission is very similar in terms of scheduling, in terms of the types of activities that we do. I won't dwell on these, but there's a lot of feedback from past participants. I think one thing that stands out the most is just the doors that get opened and fast tracking. Rather than trying to do this yourself, potentially wasting a lot of capital and time, this is a way to fast track your market entry. One outcome we've had from previous participants is they actually go on a mission believing that the UK is the market for them, and they very quickly realize, actually, no, we should be focused on the US instead. So saving all that heartache of trying to enter a market only to learn later that it wouldn't be a fit. In terms of sponsored places, so we do have 10 places on the UK mission being sponsored by the City of Gold Coast, an amazing partner who also sponsored 10 places last year. In South Australia, so if you're a South Australian-based venture, there are 10 places being sponsored by the state government across, now that is in total across the US and UK, and the breakdown of how many are on each will just depend on this, the applicants. What that includes is the entire mission fee. So you get a delegate pass onto the mission. It includes your accommodation. It includes all of the activities that we organize, the swag and everything else on those previous slides. What it doesn't include are your airfares to and from the UK, and then any personal incidentals, your own meals, that sort of thing. Just on meals, so one question comes up sometimes, pretty much between the networking events that are across the whole week, you could pretty much eat for free if you wanted to. It's just really a case of how much you want to spend. In terms of the criteria for those sponsored places, there's some basic stuff. So you have to be over the age of 18. That's mostly because just that we enter a lot of licensed venues. Just different hosts have a requirement on ages as well. You have to be, obviously, to apply for the mission, please make sure that you are actually in a place where you can travel. The last 2 years, we've offered, someone's actually been awarded a sponsored place, only to then tell us, oh, actually, I'm not available to travel those dates. I can't go. I haven't made family arrangements, whatever. So please make sure, if you are applying, please make sure that you can actually travel and attend the entire week. This isn't designed to be something where you just come to the day one and then disappear and do your own things. This is very much designed to be a cohort experience. The little nuances, I think, on eligibility, though, really are those two on the right. So for the sponsored places, you have to be a founder or co-founder of a tech-enabled venture. You have to have your primary place of work and or a significant number of staff of the company, so a big proportion of the business, working in City of Gold Coast if you're going for that funding, or in South Australia if you're going for that funding. Another requirement with the Gold Coast funding in particular is you have to be able to demonstrate that you have some capacity and capability to actually export to market or into that market. So what we mean there is, you've got revenue of a certain point, or you've got capital previously raised or access to capital that can help you, resource you to actually enter the market in a meaningful way. More than happy to answer any specific questions on that one to help you if that's a question mark for you. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to stop sharing. There are the dates, talked about that already. Just some common questions that came up, and also some questions that were asked in the lead up to this information session. Then we'll open up to Q&A. So I've already talked about the first one. One little comment that often comes up is, I'm not sure if I have the time to go on a mission like this. And totally get it. We're all founders. We know what it's like. You're constantly time poor. It's always 5 seconds to midnight. Something's on fire, and it's a question of prioritization. My view on this is you have to look at it as an investment of time. And from personal experience, I've led 20 something of these missions for close to 400 founders now. You inevitably come back and realize what you were focused on and where you were spending your time was on the entirely wrong thing. So what it does is actually realign focus. And so I would say it's a great investment of time. One of the other questions that comes up is, should I just go, or who on my team should I send? Should all the co-founders go? If you can afford the time, resources, and everything else, I would highly recommend the founding team. So all co-founders go. If you have a significant investor or significant board member or chairperson, I would encourage you to get them to go as well. The reason for that is almost inevitably with every company we take over, there's a significant strategic shift that comes out of the mission. So you go over thinking, here's my strategy, here's my market entry plan, here's how we'll divide up the world, what we're going to do. Inevitably, like Mike Tyson says, no plan ever survives. What does he say? All plans are good until you get punched in the face. That's pretty much what happens during the week, and you'll come back with a new strategy, new plan. And so having your co-founders there just makes that easier to communicate and make those decisions in real time, rather than come back and trying to download a week's worth of information and content to inform a decision with someone who didn't experience it. Now, that said, we do, if that's not possible for you, we do help you, come up with a process during the week that you can keep your others up to date on decisions and information as you go during the week. Where should you stay? So we all stay together. So it is a requirement that you actually stay in the accommodation that we provide. It's part of the cohort experience. It makes it much easier when we're, doing a briefing at 7 in the morning ahead of an 8 o'clock event that we have to get to, and we all have to get through the tube system in London, or get into Ubers to get across San Francisco in peak hour. It just makes it much easier when we're all co-located. You get much more value out of being co-located. We have experimented where people stay in different locations on their own, and it's a completely different experience. You don't walk away with the same cohort effect. One other question that often comes up is, should I stay longer? So yes, if you can afford the time in market, one way I recommend approaching it is have the mission week and take another week on the back of it, which is you might half fill before going over, but absolutely, if you can, keep some free air time in the days afterwards where you have time to catch up and properly spend time with people you meet during the week. You'll also get introduced to people during the week that you want to be able to catch up with. So if you can afford it, and in terms of your priorities, the other approach would be to plan a post-mission revisit to market within a couple of months of the mission to have those follow-ups and build those relationships. Now, these are broad generalizations. They're not going to suit everyone, but it's just something I've seen work. Question marks on how do we get prepared? What's the post-mission? What happens when we get back? Those sort of things. So as I said before, we run a series of pre-mission events, also a series of post-mission workshops. So all of that is designed to get you ready for market. We help you get your pitch right. We help you get your collateral right. We help you set expectations on how to speak to people in market, what to get out of the week. But then also on the way back, those catch-ups afterwards. So we have regular catch-ups, and that's where we share the learnings. We hold you accountable to getting it done. And honestly, I think that part is actually one of the most valuable pieces. Last one we get asked is how the mission's helped others. So it's we have some impact measures. So number one, we lift your entrepreneurial capability. So we do pre-mission, post-mission entrepreneurial self-efficacy assessments, and they've been demonstrated to lift entrepreneurial capability. So you walk away from the mission at the end, at least with the belief that you are a better entrepreneur. You're also statistically more likely to raise more capital, statistically more likely to grow your revenue faster, and all those nice things. To give you a real world example, there's 3 founders from last year who went on the London mission, who right now are back in market over there and actively scaling in the UK. I know actually some of them are going to join this call because they now want to do the same on the US mission this year. Someone I took to the UK mission originally thought the US was their market and just came to the UK to kind of see how it might fit post North America. As a result of the week in London, they decided, actually, no, the UK was a much better opportunity. Within 3 months, they uprooted everything, moved to the UK, and within 3 years were acquired in marketing in London. And now Chris, he spends half his life UK side, Australia side as an angel investor, and actually proud to say he's just become a shareholder in Tribe as well. So more than happy to talk to other examples. So, I mean, one of the best outcomes was actually a founder who went over and just categorically ruled out a market and just saved themselves spending a couple of million on attempting market entry, which would have otherwise failed. All the details are up on the website. So you would have seen already, if you found us here, you would have seen all of that online. But that's it in terms of, I guess, the structured content. At this point, really just happy to open it up to Q&A. Maren did just message me to say, for some reason, our Zoom is saying it's going to end in like 4 minutes. If it does, please dial back in. We'll just kick off again. I don't know why it's dropped out of the Tribe account. But any questions? Thoughts, concerns? I can't.
I have one. I have one question. What are some of the criteria that people don't usually get into this program for? What are the kind of tick boxes that you guys go, oh, I might not be fit for you in that sense?
Yeah. So number one thing to note is participants can pay to attend. So really that question is more around the application for sponsored places, I assume, Wes. So with the application for sponsored place, yeah, I think understanding, being able to articulate your market, being able to articulate, how have you actually achieved success here in Australia, and articulating some insights into the market you're looking to go to. So if you have some sort of insight into, here's why we think the UK, here's why we think the US. If you think about it from the sponsor's perspective, they're really looking to back companies that are going to get commercial outcomes out of this. So they don't want someone that's just like, oh, maybe, possibly, or a tire kicking exercise. The more you can demonstrate, yeah, we've got real conviction on this market, we're committed to entering this market, we're already going to do this anyway, this is going to de-risk it for us, this is going to help us scale XYZ, that sort of thing. The more you can articulate that, the better. Just to explain oh, sorry, Andre. Yep.
Sorry. With the US mission, what's the deadline for that? Because US is of interest to us and UK is as well. Obviously, UK is a lot earlier. Can we go to the UK mission and then still make a decision on the US?
Potentially. So the applications for the UK mission close on April 12th. So there's still 2 weeks to go for the UK. The US mission, we haven't set a firm date for closing applications yet. But the SA funded places will be likely closing. It'd be, like, I would say, end of August. So there's still some time for US.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Just in terms of process, so for those of you that are applying for funded places, we take those applications in. So applications are open now. We've already had pretty strong interest. We review, like, our team reviews them. We do a bit of DD. We come up with our shortlisting of recommendations, and then the sponsoring entity, so whether that's City of Gold Coast or the State Government of South Australia, they then have final approval on the list. But over the last couple of years of both of them being sponsors, there really hasn't been changes to our recommendations. So we aim to let people know pretty quickly. So we'd love to. We're saying end of April. We'd love to actually turn that around even faster if we can, because we're conscious people have to book flights and other things. Any other questions about the mission, or Don, Jack, Maren, anything you want to add that I've not covered? Or
yeah, I think just to reiterate a couple of points, that it's the way I see it is, it's like there's a core structure there, and there are some people that get a whole lot of value out of just following that core structure. But for some people, depending on where you are, already having ideal client profile sorted, it's totally fine to divert off that core structure. I think last year, Aaron, didn't some people jump on a train and head up to the Midlands?
Yeah.
And disappear for a day and then come back. But I think the other thing is that it's